As powerful movers and shakers of the media.
It's 6 talk shows in one tonight, you realize?
I tell you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people sitting around this table. You'll be fascinated by the panel that's going to be discussing our topic tonight. We're talking about the responsibility of the media. We want to know how far is too far. Let me introduce you to the power panel that we have in studio tonight. I'm going to start by introducing you to Mr. Winston Babatunde Williams, who is from KLAS-FM. Mr. Witter, I'm so very sorry, sir. Welcome to Uncensored. Cliff Hughes of Hot 102 is also here. Wilmot Perkins is also here with us tonight. Thank you for being here, sir. And our good old Uncle Charlie, who's been around for a while, is going to tell us how he sees things from his end. We welcome you all to Uncensored. Please feel free to speak as you wish, which is like a given in this certain situation with these gentlemen sitting at our table. Now we're going to start by asking you, you're all very, very substantial talk show hosts. You corner large chunks of the listening market. Thousands of people listen to each of you on a daily basis and believe what you say. Now, if you say jump, they're going to jump. There are a lot of people who feel that strongly about what you gentlemen do. What do you see, starting with you, Cliff, as your responsibility to those that listen to you?
Well, I don't believe that they will jump if I say jump. That's the first thing I have to take issue with. I believe my listeners can very well make up their own minds and make decisions that don't necessarily are not necessarily in sync with my own position. I feel that we have to be careful that we do not underestimate our listeners. If that were so, if Motty Perkins listeners do what he tells them, we might have a different country today.
Indeed. Who is that, perhaps? What about your role in influencing those who listen to you?
I do believe that we help to shape and to influence public opinion. But ultimately, what is of paramount importance is the truth. If people believe what you're saying is the truth, and it is in fact the truth, then that ultimately is where the influence comes from.
I want to discuss that a little later on. Flesh it out some more. The truth. The truth. How concerned the journalists are.
If you're not credible, you cannot survive in the market.
Is that correct?
If you're not credible and not resonating, you cannot survive in the market.
But there are those who say that several talk shows are not credible, It's just entertainment value. But we're going to move on. All right. We're going to come back to that in a little while. Motty, please, your responsibility.
Well, Cliff said what I was going to say myself. If I think it's almost unflattering of me to suggest that when I say jump, people jump, because if that is so, then how would I account for the state of the country today? If people were jumping when I say jump and jumping in the direction in which I said they should jump, then I don't think Jamaica would look like as it does today. I hope so. I wouldn't like to be taking responsibility for this.
Do you believe that you are a powerful man in shaping public opinion and influencing minds?
What does power mean?
There we go.
Power, as I understand
I've heard this question you asked before. Yes, go ahead.
Power, as I understand it, is the ability to effectuate your will. The Romans had different words for power, and but I haven't got power. I haven't got power to put my will into effect via the radio. Maybe I have influence, but that influence depends, as Cliff was pointing out, on credibility. Credibility is like bank credit. You take a long time to earn it. You earn it because people have had experience of you, and when you tell them the wall is white, they look and they say, yes, the wall is white. You tell them next time the ceiling is blue, and they look and they see it's blue. Perhaps next day you tell them the stone is red, they haven't seen it, but they trust you because you told them. But if they then discover that you lied to them, well, that is that. And I tell people, the people who come who are concerned about my negativism and my this, that, the other, and so on, I tell them that, I have little patience with that. Come and tell me that something that I said is not true, or some argument that I put forward is illogical. If you can do that, you can destroy me.
All right.
If you can't do that, well, you're just going to have to...
Reminding you that you can participate in our program tonight. There are two numbers that you can call, 920-2033, 929-3971. A little later on, we will be taking your questions for members of our panel, including Mr. Winston Babatunde Witter, who has joined us in studio tonight. Your responsibility, sir, as far as you see it, to those who listen to you.
No, I don't think I can say a little bit more than what Wilmot Perkins and Cliff Hughes have said. They are already speaking clearly of the notion of the market as distinct from the ideas of inequality. That's what we are into now. They're just behind the new millennium. It is a sense in which we are talking about clients and we're talking about customers. We're not talking about notions of political parties and what they're doing for their supporters. We're talking about the extent to which we satisfy the needs of our customers, the needs of our clients. As a matter of fact, to be frank with you, this Wilmot Perkins is like unto Adam Smith that we all have talked about in times gone by. It's like that. It's a matter that Wilmot Perkins has been saying all these things to us for very many years, and it is just now that Cliff Hughes or Winston Witter or some others of us have come around to believing that what Wilmot Perkins has been talking about is the notion of the market. The market is in front of us.
Do you see yourself as a powerful man, Mr. Witter?
Oh no.
You don't see yourself as a powerful man?
No. I'm not powerful. I read to be frank with you, let's go back to the idea of what is power. If somebody wants to do X or to do Y, the individual will go about doing X or doing Y. I have no task, I have no feeling or strength to change whatever people want to do. They do whatever they want to do. Mind you, if it is that I am working tomorrow and there's something that they disagree with, they all turn off the radio or to go somewhere else and listen to somebody else. Yes.
Chaz Hyatt also in studio with us. Your take on the responsibility of the media, and do you think that we have been doing that?
Oh dear.
Being responsible.
Sorry to put the question that way because I have two answers in mind. In that I have had the opportunity of being an editor in a newspaper of the lamented Daily Record. What is it? The Record?
The Jamaica Record. Yeah.
Albeit entertainment editor. And I have to I'm in awe of these gentlemen because they don't see themselves as powerful or having power. And I would like to believe it, although I can't at the moment, knowing what I know. In terms of what happened to me was I got very afraid of what I was doing, in that the editor is a one person's opinion. What goes into the newspaper or that section of the newspaper is one person's opinion, what he or she would like to go into that section of the newspaper. And I thought, no, I don't want this responsibility. I am not worthy of this responsibility. Talking about whether you can influence people, I was afraid of the responsibility. Talking about whether you influence people or not. As a person in a theater, what I know, one of the reasons why I enjoy doing it is because I know that when I'm up there performing, I am, and somebody is in my audience, that person at that moment is prevented from doing something that that person probably would have regretted. Probably I might be preventing the person from doing something that I might have enjoyed better too. But I have an influence on that person. The thing that I do, the things that I say, have an influence on that person. It is not, I cannot accept that we can say we do not influence people, or people will not be influenced by our utterances, or I
nobody, who's saying that? Nobody's saying that. We're talking about the distinction between power
and influence.
Well, you want to give me the distinction? Tell me.
Well, power is the ability to effectuate your will. The Romans had a word, imperium, which meant the power that a general of an army has. That is one form of power. The Prime Minister has power. If the Prime Minister wills to give away half of the public land, he can give it away, right? I don't have that kind of power. What I may have...
No, but what we're not saying, I don't think the question is whether you have that kind of power or not. The question is whether you have power.
No. Let me say, what I think I have is the ability to point out to people what is true and what is reasonable. And if people elect, hold on a little bit, I can point out to people what is true and what is reasonable. In the same way that you can point out to people that what I am telling them is true is untrue, and that what I am telling them is reasonable is unreasonable. Now, if people elect to accept that what I am saying is true and reasonable, and elect also to act upon it, well, fine, I may be said to have influenced them, but that is a decision that they make, not I make.
All right, hold on now, Mr. Perkins. If we're going to go to influence and power, and where the two might happen to meet, there are those who would say you're not balanced as a talk show host. As a matter of fact, that you possibly use the opportunity to shoot down those who might criticize you, or those who call you and tend to deviate from your own line of reasoning. Is this something as a talk show host that you believe you have a right to do?
Well,
or is it a misuse of
what you're saying? I'm not balanced. What is balanced?
I'm not saying you're not.
That has been levied.
It's been
well,
said.
What does it mean?
Balance, fairness, objectivity. These are words that have been associated with media, or what media ought to be for a very long time.
Okay, hold on. Does that mean that if I praise Mr. Siaga, I must praise Mr. Patterson,
no,
and then Mr. Gold?
Let me give you an idea of what it means. It means that if you've decided today that you're going to, let's say, take on the government, and a man calls you and then says he's in support of the government. If there comes a time in the conversation when you suddenly decide, well, sure, hear what happened.
You're talking foolish.
Rubbish. Yeah. And you decide because you have the ability
the power to
cut him off.
Cut him off.
Is that balanced, or should you give him a fair chance?
Hold on. Every editor, and I'm in the role of an editor, has to make editorial judgments. A newspaper, no newspaper in the world carries on any day all the things that happen in the world and all the possible interpretations of those things and all the possible arguments about them. A selection has to be made. I have to make a judgment at some point as to whether to continue a particular call or to cut it off. Right?
And what do you mean?
We're speaking of specific cause where it would appear
that somebody disagrees with me.
On the basis of disagreement.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little secret. I don't think that people sit down at home or wherever it is that they have their radios on, listening to hear callers coming to tell me what a wonderful fellow I am, and agreeing with everything that I say. I think people are more likely to be interested where there is controversy and even where people are telling me what a nasty brute I am, right? So when people come and tell me something like that, I welcome that, right? And that is the call. I think that I can demonstrate. If anybody is prepared to bet me a little money, I can go back and research and produce the tapes and demonstrate that the longest calls on my program are not calls from people who are agreeing with me. There tend to be calls from people who are disagreeing with me.
Well, all right, if even that be the justification, let's use a case in point of, well, the Prime Minister and former Prime Minister, Michael Mann.
Yes.
There's a belief that, okay, you tend to be the supposed prophet of gloom and doom and negativism. If someone calls with great laurels to put on Michael Mann, we will last 5 minutes.
That's not true. That is not true.
Or if he spends the time, you will in no way accept that there's a positive side.
You know, I'd ask a question.
Why should I? Well, if I don't believe it.
You know, I'd ask.
Hold on, Winston. That is not. It's not about. We're not saying whether you have your own personal conviction. If you hear something as fact, do you at that point decide that, you know what? Let me agree and say yes. But personally, Wilmot Perkins don't like the argument.
I'm not going to say that I agree if I do not agree. And insofar as people like Michael Manley are concerned, I invite anybody to tell me what it is that I have said again about Michael Manley that is not true. It is no use telling me that I have said things against Michael Manley from the beginning of time until now. Tell me what it is that I have said that is not true, what argument I have used that is not reasonable.
Have you in any way, and this is uncensored, have you in any way found yourself compromised between a personal dislike for someone and your role as a talk show host to deal with this very same individual? Case in point, at Michael Manley.
I do not dislike Michael Manley. I did not dislike Michael Manley. Michael Manley, if you knew him, was an exceedingly charming person. And I'll tell you a story. After the 1980 elections, right, at the time when I was persona non grata in the People's National Party, I called Michael Manley one morning, and I said, Michael, I'd like to come to see you. He said, yes, ma'am, how are you fixed for time? How am I? I called him to ask him to come to see him. And he said to me, yes, ma'am, how am I fixed for time? Well, when I recovered from the shock, I told him what my schedule was. And he said, all right, come so and so and so. And I went, right? I arrived at his house, a net present, about 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. And we chatted, not about the things that I wanted to chat about, but the things that he wanted to chat about. It was exceedingly urbane and very pleasant. And we were there until about 1:30 when the telephone rang, and it was a message that some arrangement that he had made for picking up his daughter at school had broken down, and he was there phoning around to find somebody else to do it. And I said to him, look here, this is important, this is your child, you go and look about that and we can talk another time, right? Why should I hate a man like that? I tell you another thing. One night, my wife and I were invited to a function that Radio Jamaica was having at the Pegasus. When we arrived, we were late. Michael was standing up talking, making an address. And I stood, this was about 1979, when I was writing 3 times a week columns in the Gleaner critical of him and his government. And I stood up there, listening to this man talking, and saying to myself, what the devil do I have again? Why do I find myself so often in opposition to him? Right?
Why do you though? If you can ask yourself that question, why do you so often find yourself in opposition to him?
Isn't it that you have a major flavor for controversy?
No, it isn't.
What is it? What is it?
I believe that it is a commitment that I have to truth. I believe that nobody has yet demonstrated that I have told any lies against Michael Manley. Nobody has yet demonstrated that I have used any rational arguments in relation to Michael Manley. And I invite anybody who can to do it.
May I say this, that it is not Wilmot Perkins alone who had a problem with Michael Manley. I had a problem with him. As a matter of fact, I had a problem with Michael Manley. And we have had circumstances where Mr. Manley and I have quarreled at his own party headquarters. In fact, when those I think it was press conferences, and when they were finished, there were party members who attacked me, and Michael Manley stood up and said, no, you'd never do that with Winston Witter. But when Mr. Manley retired, he called me at Vale Royal, and we had a meeting for 3 hours. Michael Manley, that same man, that we had our differences, but at the same time, I saw him as a gentleman.
You seem to have differences also with the Prime Minister, Mr. Witter.
Which Prime Minister is it? Which Prime Minister are you talking about?
Prime Minister P.J. Patterson.
Oh,
now, there are those who love you, and then there are those who love to hate you, right? You've been outspoken on a number of issues. You didn't think the Prime Minister should have gone to France. You refer to the police as cowboys.
Going to which France?
And if we're not mistaken,
the World Cup. Okay.
And if we're not
and
mistaken,
also Washington, you know, where remember Lady Rose Leon, when she was killed, he took off the same day to go to Washington. I disagreed with him on that one. I think that was most out of order.
Why?
An old woman was murdered. And she served, hello please, I'm on this. She served both political parties. And not to talk about the old woman who was murdered, you know. Other old people around the place who today are feeling the effects of insecurity. And you go out of your country to say that you could have called on some other young minister to say, look here, go to Washington and do this summit. Let me talk to our Jamaican people, the elders in here, about their security.
So Baba, you don't think that when you have so much inner passion to talk about the Prime Minister and the things negative, hold on, that
inner passion.
Hold on, yes man, because I wouldn't even put it as an outer, you know.
Inner passion.
Yeah man, it coming from deep.
To talk about Prime Minister.
Yeah man. Hold on, at the end of the day.
Hold on. Do you know politics?
Hold on.
Do you know politics?
But this is not politics now,
Winston. This is about personality.
I don't know about personality.
When one speaks in a political context, you talk about inner passion.
This is no, but I'm not asking a political question.
Speaking about
I'm asking about you as a personality on radio versus the personality of the Prime Minister. That is what clashes. I'm asking.
That's not an inner passion.
Well, that is where you define.
We're talking about ideas and the extent.
I am asking you: are you able to talk about him and not in any way lose sight of objectivity?
There's no such thing as objectivity.
Oh, this is wonderful. Hughes says what? There's no such thing as objectivity.
There is fairness though.
Exactly.
What's the difference?
Have you been fair,
You will tell us
Of
what the
course I've
difference
been
is.
fair.
There are a lot of people who think you have not been fair.
Any politician.
There are a lot of people who feel that you have not been fair. What do you have to say to those people?
What is it that constitutes unfairness?
This is
what you people must understand, you know. What you people must understand, you know. We are out of the old style socialist framework, and there is something that we have gone out of communism and socialism.
Hold on, Cliff.
We are into the market.
No, but
that's what we are into.
Motty said something a while ago that I want to take issue with. There is unfairness in our job. Let me tell you. When there's a dispute, you have a difference of opinion with someone, and you do not give that person an opportunity to respond. That is unfair.
You who don't.
The talk show host, me.
Okay.
Two. It is also
Are you implying? Are you implying that I do that? Or
No. I'm explaining what is meant by unfairness.
Yes.
In the context of what
that would be unfair.
That would be unfair.
We behave like that?
No.
You behave.
But that is a criticism that has been levied against yourself, Mr. Perkins.
Because we stop people from calling us.
No. That you don't give people a chance to disagree.
No, but you don't
I beg your pardon.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Let us allow
Let me finish.
I thought I answered that some time ago.
Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
That is unfair. What is also unfair?
No, hold on. You're using the wrong tense. The wrong, not tense, but the wrong mood. That would be unfair.
Yeah, this
would be unfair if we did it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But do we do it?
I don't know.
If you listen
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't know?
Something that is true.
What do you mean you don't know, Cliff?
Well, all right.
When saying I don't know, would that be truth? I don't.
Yes,
hear.
I know.
Hold on. I can't cite an example where a talk show host deliberately said, "I'm not talking to you," so as not to give you a chance to respond.
Let me ask you, Cliff. Have you ever heard that?
No, I don't
say that, but don't.
Hold on.
I can't cite an example. Allow me to finish. Allow me to make.
No, we never done so.
You soon get to the end of it, Cliff. Let me ask you this question. If we're going to talk about seeming unfairness, there are those who will say that Cliff Hughes will be as sharp and as fearless attacking anybody who comes in front of him. However, on occasions it seems as if he becomes rather tame with certain public officials. If that that is a perception, and I'm putting it to you, Cliff. And having the experience you have, I don't think this is the first time that has ever come across you. The issue is there a difference between attacking the regular man and the public official?
No.
There are not.
Then where is the perception?
Oh, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I can't say.
You've never heard it?
It's
You've never heard it?
to understand.
Hold on, Cliff. You've never heard it?
Hold on a moment. It's easy to understand how that comes about.
Not with Motty Perkins.
Well, if I talk to you, right, and we essentially agree, you're telling me things, it seems to me that you're being open, that you're frank, you're answering the questions in a straightforward manner. How are we going to, what are we going to do?
To be
the question is,
you suddenly seem to omit the pointed question.
But Motty says it. I am interviewing you, Rodney. And you
are asking me very passive questions.
No, may I ask you to do something for me? Can you get in touch with the Prime Minister tomorrow for me at 10 o'clock and ask him to speak to me at 10:30? No, Winston Babatunde Witter is asking you to get in touch with the Prime Minister tomorrow.
Let's see.
To get in touch with Babatunde.
We're going to take a break. By 29, we're discussing the responsibility of the media. How far is too far? We'll be right back. Don't move.
The president of what?
Quality president.
Okay, hold on.
He's not from the youth.
Winston Witter, hold on.
Ever been there, you know.
Hold on.
The quality man has been there.
We have online, we have online Mr. Desmond Allen. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, how are you doing?
PAJ President.
Welcome to us.
Am I correct?
Good, thanks for inviting me. I'm not sure. I think you have such eminent gentlemen there that...
No, man, we always have space for one more.
According to Mr. Perkins and Mr. Witter, your QC, quality control.
We always have space for one more. And the spike. So, you've been following the discussion so far. What's your take on it?
But you started with a theme as to whether the talk shows can go too far. Of course, they can go too far. I think, though, that we need to look at what's the purpose, a general understanding of the purpose of talk shows.
Have we lost focus, Mr. Allen, you think?
In respect of the talk shows?
Yes, have we lost focus of the true purpose? What is the talk show supposed to do?
That's what I want to get to. I think that the talk show is an adjunct to the newsroom. I think it does for freedom of expression almost something that the newsroom itself couldn't do, because it broadens the discussion, it brings all sorts of people in, it's very immediate, it's varied in a way that the newsroom does not prove to be right now. The essential difference is in the treatment of the information that they get.
All right.
And you will see. No,
go ahead.
The newsroom. Let me start with the talk show. The talk show. Somebody calls a talk show. Gets on here, makes all sorts of allegations. The talk show does not have enough time to check the information, to verify, to see whether it's accurate, it's factual, it's being fair, all of that. It's on the air.
Rubbish, Mr. Perkins said. This is rubbish. Tell us why you say this, Mr. Perkins.
With the newsroom, the training is that you take the information and it goes through a cleansing process. You look at the various sides, you look at what's being fair, you try to confirm or deny. So that when it comes out, it ought to be more credible, more useful, more factual.
That's when you work at the Gleaner.
But hold on, Mr. Perkins.
That's when you work at the Gleaner.
Hold on, Mr. Allen.
Not when you are the Jamaica record.
Hold on, Mr. Witter.
Perkins disagrees.
He's going to tell us why. Mr. Perkins, why you disagree?
Well, for the obvious reason that if somebody calls me and tells me something, right, it is possible by questioning to bring out whether that person, the likelihood of that person.
If you have the inclination.
I beg your pardon?
If you have the inclination to get to the you have that opportunity. But what I'm saying, the information is already out before all of that happens. In the case of a newsroom, it is supposed to happen before it comes out.
Yes, but so what? If somebody comes and makes an irresponsible statement, and you can demonstrate by a process of questioning that it is irresponsible, what has been lost?
But you might not be able to. The thing is already out there, and in fact, that is not because
yes, all right,
our system says that.
Fine, Mr. President. But hold on just a moment.
Innocent until proven guilty.
But hold on just a moment.
Talk show.
This is
guilty, and then you try to prove whether in fact it is or not.
That is rubbish, Mr. Allen.
Rubbish what?
Hold on, Mr. Allen.
Who's saying this?
I am saying it. Perkins is saying it.
Perkins, why everything is rubbish?
Because it is rubbish, and I'm about to demonstrate
it. You seem to have a source of this thing.
Hold on, Mr. Allen. Hold on, Mr. Allen. We have in this country, supposedly, a free and democratic society, and one of the things that our Constitution guarantees is free speech. Now, when somebody comes and says something,
and you misuse free speech.
Hold on,
all the time.
I misuse free speech. In what way?
Do you know what Motty does? Motty will accuse somebody. He then carries out an arrest. He hauls them before the court. He becomes the prosecutor. He then becomes the juror. He then becomes the judge, and he sentences them.
You complain to the Prime Minister about that? Have you complained to the Prime Minister about that?
Hold on, Winston.
Have you complained to the Prime Minister about that?
Hold on, Winston.
And after carrying out
have you complained to the Prime Minister about that?
Hold on. Hold on, Mr. Allen.
Then someone's
Mr. Allen.
to answer the charges.
Mr. Allen.
So we operate.
Mr. Allen. Having said that, Winston Witter is here. Wilmot Perkins is here. Cliff Hughes is here. 3 respected talk show hosts. Does the Press Association of Jamaica find these talk show hosts to be role models for journalists?
No, guilty or not guilty?
Mr. Allen?
There is a purpose for talk shows.
No. Hold on, Brother Charlie. You did not answer the question, Mr. Allen. I'm asking you if you find them to be role models for journalists.
In some ways, not always. I mean, there's no perfect person.
So,
Wilmot Perkins, let me say this. Wilmot Perkins.
No, hold on, Mr. Allen. Hold on, Mr. Allen. Hold on a moment. Before you proceed to make another accusation of the kind that hold on just a moment. Perhaps you would like to furnish some evidence for what you said a while ago.
I would like to ask.
No, but now you're going to allow him to answer the question?
Or what I said about how you...
Yes, about how I proceed. Absolutely. Give me an example of that.
You have done that with me.
I have done it with you. In what way?
And you have done worse with me.
I beg your pardon?
You have done worse than that with me.
Oh, what have I done with you?
Like what, Mr. Allen? Like what?
He has had me on his program and taken something that I said and twisted it, and for weeks after that, in fact months, using his privilege of being on the air every day, knowing that I do not have similar privilege. He constantly told people, or his listeners, that this is what I said.
What is that?
The same question about equality.
But didn't you say it?
What was it
did you not say?
For those of us who don't know, what did you say, Mr. Allen? What was it that you said?
I said to him that the way he treats people on his program causes people to not want, some people to not want to...
Quality people.
Well, all right. Well, hold on there, Mr. Allen. Hold on. Mr. Perkins, let me ask you this then.
Quality people. Didn't you say that?
I said... You cannot
say quality people
of guess that you want. You take it to say that
you said you used the word quality persons.
You cannot.
Are you denying that?
Quality in its widest sense.
Mr. Allen.
Cannot get the quality.
Mr. Allen, hold on a second. Wilmot Perkins.
Yes, sir.
If you find that you have a call of, say, Desmond Allen on the phone.
Yes.
And the conversations prior to his have been a bit passive. Do you at any point inject a kind of controversy or drama to make the program suddenly spiced?
I am not a dramatist here, you know. That's Charles Hand.
No, really.
No, but this goes to you because many people believe that you specifically go for controversy.
On the marketization or capitalism, you don't need to have that kind of thing. If you have a socialist like Mr. Gentleman here, then you will have all of that.
Hold on. No, Motty needs to answer.
No, let me take this one.
Oh, you want to answer for Motty?
Let me take it this one.
Motty, you're going to allow Cliff to answer for you.
We're being brutally frank.
Go ahead, Cliff.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people around the table.
Hold on. Motty Perkins does a 4.5 hour. Witter does a 4.5 hour program. Cliff Hughes does a 3-hour program. Somewhere along the line, to keep your audience, don't tell me you're going to be stoic and serious for the entire.
Do you inject strategy?
I think I can answer.
I think you just answered.
Therefore, as people who are in this business and who I think are fairly good at it, we will inject some humor. We will inject some spice and some things that are going to be controversial.
Wonderful.
Play devil's advocate.
No, I should say that most of
Hold on, you just said he should answer for you.
call us and do it.
Well, all right. In the case of Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Yes. In the case of Breakfast Club.
Why don't you deal with that point?
That is the point that I'm dealing with.
But Cliff, you just made a statement a while ago that I consider frightening. In that, many a true word is spoken in jest, yes? Yes?
Yes.
Now, when there are people who use words like a barber uses a razor. Yes? And they're very skillful at it. When you're dealing with somebody who is not as skilled as you, and you're able to use words to make that person sound as if they have said certain things which they haven't said, I didn't intend to say.
I didn't say that a while ago.
No. Oh, I didn't say that you said that. I didn't say that you said that. Hear me?
Right.
When you do things like that, I think it is unfair. I think it is unworthy of you, whoever you are.
What did I say that was frightening?
No, hold on. What you say is frightening.
What?
In fact, of course, you will introduce some humor or some spice or whatever it is.
So what is frightening about that?
Spice comes in many forms.
I am saying that it can be a very dangerous thing to do.
To introduce humor into...
No, you don't start with me that way. Don't start with me that way.
Introduce what?
What is it that you're saying?
I'm trying with what I say.
I am trying to understand you.
I will...
What is it that you're saying?
If you're unable to understand simple me, then something is wrong.
Well, you're saying that the introduction of humor is dangerous.
I am saying... All right. Okay. Let me ask. It can be dangerous.
Why?
I didn't say it is dangerous.
Why can't
because when you're doing it at the expense of somebody or something, it can be dangerous.
Yes.
You can agree with that?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, what a pity.
If something is funny, I love it.
All right, hold on.
This is a fair. Something is funny. You feel
let's get around
at the expense of somebody.
What you mean by at the expense of?
I suppose you're saying that if you're ridiculing someone.
Why didn't you come and sit down here, young man?
But Mr. Allen, Mr. Allen, I can't ridicule someone, if the person makes himself ridiculous, then I will, of course, I will.
You're the one who's deciding.
People ridicule themselves, not I ridicule them.
All right, hold on. Mr. Allen.
And I suppose that's what the gentleman is saying that.
And when you came talking about quality persons on my program, you made yourself ridiculous, and I laughed.
Hold on. Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen.
Don't blame me for that.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Let me put this to you as the president of the PAJ.
Yes.
The question goes, and to the rest of the panel, how objective can you actually be? I mean, you have your own political views, your own views on social issues. Wouldn't it be easy for you, I mean, especially in your position, to color the views that you have? How easy is it to separate these things?
In some things you can be objective. For example, in reporting what somebody says, you could just be very accurate and faithful to what they say.
And in what way are you biased?
But hold on,
Winston.
Winston,
let him finish. In what way then are you biased?
Now, well, yeah, I'm going to say that because it is very difficult to extricate the bias completely from what you're doing, because the whole business of information comes down to a selection process. obviously you can't get all information that's generated in a day. So what you get from editors, newsrooms, even talk show hosts, it's a selection of what you have available.
No, Mr. Allen, I'm not asking you about what you're getting from people. I'm saying to you, Mr. Allen, come now. You're dancing now, You're dancing now.
He's in the old millennium. That's where he is.
I'm asking.
And so people cannot get the full understanding what you're saying.
Mr. Allen, they can get the full understanding if you answer the question I asked. I am saying to you.
You want me to answer?
No.
Or the way I want to answer?
No, don't play games, Mr. Allen. I'm saying to you.
But you're playing games more than I am.
I am saying to you.
The moderator.
I am saying to you that
you must understand.
Since there are instances that you cannot be.
A propagandist.
Hold on. Since there are instances.
And socialist.
Winston.
Yes.
One at a time.
So rather than
hold on, Mr. Allen.
Come for labels because it's so much easier to
Mr.
handle.
Allen.
If you can
hold on.
put a label on someone and do it.
Mr. Allen, we're not going nowhere here now. Hold on now. I'm saying to you, you have mentioned when it comes on to the reporting and what have you, fine. But then there's an element of reporting or at least releasing information which becomes victim to bias.
Yes,
why should you allow yourself at any point to put out information that involves bias?
In the selection process that I started to mention, you bring all sorts of subjective factors to play. And that is why you can't be 100% objective all the time.
Oh, so
being your personal biases.
You're admitting then that the media is biased.
Let me give you an example. When you decide which story you have to lead, obviously I've said to yourself, of all the stories I have on my plate, this one is going to meet certain needs. One might be that it affects a very large number of people, or it might be a particular sector of people that you're interested in. So you bring these little things to bear in selecting, and that's why I'm saying that it's very difficult to be 100% objective. In most cases, what you try to do is to be fair, to be balanced, to be accurate.
Okay.
Especially when you work for,
thank you
when you work for the JIS.
Hold on, Winston. Mr. Allen, PhD of the President of the PhD. We thank you very much.
What I don't understand though, before Mr. Allen goes to pause.
He's gone.
What I don't understand is why journalists should find it any more difficult to be objective than surgeons or engineers or architects or
but Wilmot, let's face it. What is the job that they are doing? The media has a job that surgeons don't have.
The media's job is essentially to
earn money.
So do surgeons. Surgeons earn money. So do shopkeepers. So do playwrights. So do actors. Right? So do people who do music shows on the radio. So do manufacturers of motor cars.
What were you going to say, Mr. Perkins?
Shoemakers.
The media's job is essentially...
disagreeing with
what's wrong with that?
The media's job is essentially
The media's job is to provide information to its audience or its readership or whatever.
It's to educate.
The difference between the surgeon.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
If that is the case,
is that the surgeon's job is to get you well, not to make money.
The media's job is to provide
is to make money. No, sure.
Well, all right. We're TV.
I make good money, and I'm not ashamed of it.
No, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in your business.
I don't have to make money by teaching or by telling lies.
Mr. Allen brought up a very important point.
I want somebody gentlemen, one at a time. Listeners are
free speech. Very interesting point I think you raised. Because sometimes, let me go to Mr. Witter. When we listen to you, we hear you sometimes speak of, for example, the Prime Minister, in very, what some people would call derogatory ways, like you call him the little barefoot boy from Westmoreland or the little one, derogatory ways.
I have never called the Prime Minister little barefoot boy from where? No man come with the
paper. Are you sure, Mr.
I am sure of that. Never call him a little barefoot boy from
Have you ever referred to him in terms that some would call derogatory?
Well, come with the terms, man. Come with them.
This is where we need our listeners to call in.
You make listeners come and tell me when we call the Prime Minister.
Yeah, man, you refer to him in ways that are...
However,
business.
While you're thinking about it,
What I want to know.
while you're thinking about it, TV. Hold on.
Pato.
And that's the only way that you refer to the
That's the
Prime Minister?
only way, Pato. And I've to know, and I've
Mr.
come on the
Witter.
yes, and never said them up. What you say him is a barefoot boy?
Mr. Witter.
Never.
Pato is the only way to...
Never. No, I said company things, and let us talk about
But when you're talking those things, however you refer to the Prime Minister, what you're referring to, do you know what you're doing to the office of the Prime Minister in the eyes of people outside who are listening?
Are you saying that it's
The office
disrespecting,
of
Mr.
the-
Hyatt?
You think he's...
Disrespecting
You're
office?
saying what?
office
That
of
the office
Prime
of the
Minister.
Prime Minister is beyond what? Is beyond criticism?
But does it infringe
About
when he cannot do
criticism?
this? Does it infringe on his free speech? We're on the pattern of free
The office
speech.
of the Prime Minister is not beyond criticism whatsoever. What you're supposed to be dealing with is if the Prime Minister, whoever he is, does a particular thing with which you do not agree or you see another way that it can be done, it is your duty as a watchdog of the people's, of the Constitution, people's right, to say what you think. Yes? But as far as the Prime Minister's office is concerned, you have no right to devalue it.
No, so how do you hold on a bit? Let me ask you something now.
Devalue.
I hear a lot of rubbish in that.
Yeah, I know.
How do you devalue the office of Prime Minister by any reference that you make to the person who occupies that office? You tell me that. If the Prime Minister...
If you don't know
hold
that...
on. If there is a Prime Minister... Hold on.
If you don't know the answer to that...
I don't. You tell me.
Oh, well, maybe that's where...
You think maybe there is a
sociocultural difference between
Let's not
between
back on
Britain
ball this.
and the United States of America. And you're more British.
No, you know what it is? They told
Let us
no. One of the one of the favorite expressions.
Let's move fast.
Colonialism and imperialism. And what is happening here? This is an attitude to government that belongs to the colonial and imperialist era, in which you had a monarch, and the government was the prerogative of the monarch, right? The opposite of that, of course, the revolutionary opposite of that, is where the people. You have a democracy, and the people are the sovereign, right? Now, where the government, where the king is the sovereign, offices under the king have a mystique about them.
Yes,
You cannot
that's the honor and praise.
The prime minister is honorable and so on. Where the people is the sovereign, right? It's a totally different business.
All right,
the prime
Wilmot.
minister is a man,
Wilmot.
and he's the servant of the people, right?
So we have a right
Make up your mind.
All right, hold on. No. We're moving away from
what's wrong with you, sir? You don't know how to treat when it doesn't suit you, he's the leader.
You don't know how to treat theatrical people. Gentlemen, a theatrical man.
We are moving away from
There is no
this.
distinction between them.
What?
Between those two things.
Hold on. Cliff,
There is no contradiction there.
You mean between the difference between the leader
A leader and a servant.
Am I going to take my call here? Am I going to take my call?
Yes, do.
Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
How are you?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Mr. Witter, did you call the Prime Minister the boy Pato?
The boy Pato? No, I don't know that I call him the boy Pato.
Or you call him the boy Pato, Mr. Witter?
No.
Well, Mr. Witter...
Did you hear Mr. Witter call him that?
Of course.
You heard that? You heard that?
I hear you call him.
I wish you if you have heard me call him the boy Pato.
Of course.
And I know that he's not a boy. He's a big man.
No, but why you
I
call
know
him
you
the
what
boy?
I wish you to do, sir.
Bring the
It's
carry the
to bring
tape
the
to
tape.
KLS and
Yeah,
give to
man.
Mr. Witter and
Carry
deal with
the
it
tape.
at that stage,
And as
okay?
a matter of fact, you know what I tell you to do? You know what I
Could I
tell
make a comment here?
Mr.
It is
Witter.
notorious. Hold on a little bit, caller. It is notorious that many citizens of Jamaica are referred to as by policemen out there, the agents of the Prime Minister. Right? What is the Prime Minister doing about that? Why should the...
Oh, come on.
No, hold on a minute.
that is true.
Hold on. That's quite true.
That's true.
There are citizens out there. Police look at citizens of Jamaica
well,
and say, come here, boy,
yeah.
come give me a search. What is the Prime Minister doing
Yes,
about
Mr.
that?
talking.
And why should the Prime Minister? Why should anybody?
I wouldn't even address that.
But why?
Really?
Who is the Prime Minister?
Hold on, Motty.
You know, I don't understand you socialists who believe in
If the police
egalitarianism.
refer to anybody like that as they do, it is wrong.
It is wrong.
And disrespectful.
And the Prime Minister should be doing something about it.
Exactly. But Mr. Witter says that it is also disrespectful.
Excuse me. Let me ask
Two
you.
wrongs don't make a right.
Hold on. No, but I'm telling this man that he's lying.
Hold on.
I am telling this man that he's lying.
And we have put it to him that if he has the proof, he should
He must
provide
bring it to me.
Caller, you have another comment to me?
Mr. Witter, okay. If it's lie, I'm telling that you call the Prime Minister the boy Pato. I can't remember the incident that really happened somewhere in Riverton, right? And the people was demonstrating, and you said the boy Pato for go down the suck.
Caller, you're gone back to that. I told you already the simple solution. If you want to prove it, take the tape to KLS and prove it to Mr. Witter. Do you have another comment?
And listen, if you come with truth, him gone.
No, I'm here.
No, listen.
You have another comment, caller?
No, I don't have any other comment.
You get your salary Saturday on Friday.
Stay tuned to Uncensored, alright? Thank you for calling.
Alright.
Okay, the matter of television. Let us...
No, you've satisfied. No, hold on. There is an issue about the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the person P.J. Patterson, is entitled to no more respect than any other citizen of this country.
You agree, Cliff?
Yeah, right?
Of course. You agree?
Of course, totally.
Is this by virtue of him being a public servant?
No, he is entitled to no more respect than you or Winston Witter or Cliff Hughes or Charlie Hyatt or either of you or the man in the citizen of Jamaica who is tonight walking on the street.
Charles Hyatt,
you agree or you disagree?
Charles
You
Hyatt
think
disagrees.
that we should hold the Prime Minister in higher esteem than the usual ordinary layman?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I am talking about the office of the Prime Minister. The office of the Prime Minister is, okay. Would you treat your teacher or headmaster the same way you treat your schoolmate?
And by treatment, what do you mean? Disrespectful?
Would you go up and slap your teacher in the head back? You know?
Hold on. Let me ask this question. What would be the difference between slapping a fellow student and slapping the principal? You have done two wrong things to two people. What's the difference?
It's not necessarily wrong in the terms of you and your friend.
Is it right?
Hold on.
He comes to school with this new haircut. And you go and take it and smash him and new haircut.
And the principal gets a haircut.
You expect
And you... No, that's not expected.
But that is not a lack of respect.
Have you slapped two people while one is righter than the other? Is one action righter than the other?
Would you go?
No, that is not. If you slap the headmaster, it's not an act of disrespect.
Would you then go and hug your teacher and kiss her on her lips? And is it disrespect that you're showing to your wife when you do that?
There's something called... No, don't comment that.
All right, hold on.
Because there's something called sexual harassment.
Gentlemen.
What you are suggesting is that an act of familiarity is equivalent to an act of disrespect.
But it can be.
Hold on. Gentlemen, we have 2 minutes left. And we want to talk about television.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Uncle John.
Is that what you're saying?
That's precisely what I'm saying.
So we're talking about respect now.
You're being familiar. Yeah, never mind. The evidence is already there in what we have said.
But in any event, the Prime Minister is hardly my teacher.
Well, all right. The question of television.
What is he to you? What is he to you?
Well, to begin with, I'm a little older than he.
What is he to you? That is not the answer to my question at all.
Has he been your teacher?
And my fellow citizen.
What?
He's my fellow citizen, which is the most important.
He's not your Prime Minister.
He is the Prime Minister.
He does not hold the office of Prime Minister of the country.
For the time being, yes.
No. I I am asking you about is, which is the present
You know what the word
moment.
minister means?
I don't give, I can't,
Do you know what it means?
that is of no interest to me.
No, I'm telling you what it means. It's a servant.
Yeah, he's the prime,
He's the chief servant of the people of Jamaica.
He's the prime servant, he's the prime minister.
Chief
What is
servant.
he? Is he the leader of the government or is he, or what?
He's the leader of the government. Yeah.
So what is he? Is he the leader of government business of the country?
There must be a point. There must be a point. Hold on, Winston. There must be a point to this. And if there must be a point to this. And we need to get into television. We are at 10 o'clock. Gentlemen. For the last time, I'm going to introduce this television theme. I need to figure out the gory details that have been shown on television for the sensationalism of news. Is that something that is responsible journalism? That shows two bodies half cut in a car,
or a newspaper,
or a suicide victim hanging from a rope.
I don't know about responsibility. Probably it's insensitive.
Yes,
It's not necessarily irresponsible, but insensitive.
But where do you draw the line?
Draw the line as an editor who has acted as an editor in the past. You show as much as you need to tell the story. To put up front and close the gory details. You don't need that to tell the story.
Then in terms of polls and rating, don't you think it's wonderful?
No, you turn off people.
So in that case,
show as much as you need to
show.
I can quite agree with that.
You know?
So what's the justification for showing it?
Well, a misjudgment, perhaps.
Yes.
But the thing about that misjudgment is that it happens too often.
So regularly?
It happens too often. If something is done, and everybody agrees that it is
wrong,
it should not be done.
Right.
How is it then that it is?
Everybody does
all
not
along.
agree.
Hold on a sec. Milton,
Everybody does not agree.
Hello, good evening.
Oh, good God.
Sorry, we have Milton. Milton?
Evening.
Right, you're the editor of news at CVM. Hold on a second, Charlie.
I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Milton,
Yes, good evening.
you've been listening to the discussion, I presume.
No, unfortunately, I haven't been.
All right.
Had an emergency, sir.
Well, unfortunately, you put yourself in at a somewhat lovely time. Television, the gory details being shown on television in primetime news. Is this really sensationalism, insensitivity, bad judgment, or is it just a true choice and judgment?
Are you speaking of the primetime news as in that program on...
Your news.
No, the news in primetime.
Yeah, your news, CVM news.
What do you mean by gory details? I need to...
Gory details means half of the body chop off and it's shown.
we don't show that.
Hold on, man hanging from tree and it's shown.
We don't show that.
CVM has never shown anything that's declared to be in poor taste.
Hang on, perhaps in the past, some years ago.
Also, this is not under your watch.
I can't say. Maybe I don't know.
Hold on. All right. Well, give me an opinion then. Hold on.
Because
Cliff.
I think everybody agrees. You don't need to do it, and if an error was made in the past, let us say errors. I've seen it in the past that people
but we need to know.
You know,
Milton, what do you think about?
I'm sure Milton would tell you that is something that is a judgment call. Sometimes under the heat of producing for the deadline, I've been there. And you go on to write the story, leave it with an editor to cover that picture, and something gets through.
So QC is a problem.
So hold on. So Milton.
I'm not being able to make a point. The breaking story, a man was shot on Fagan Avenue in Grand Spend. Minutes before 7, we sent a crew out. We got pictures. At that time, all our machines are being used, and there's very little time for us to review the footage to make proper selections. We looked at the tape. I think we perhaps even played it from source. But we work with specific instructions for camera pool all across the island. First, if we're filming bodies, we much prefer if they're